All right, welcome back to my channel. I think it's Outdoor Nature Ministry. Um, but this is a channel that I put together because the world has not really um, allowed me to get out in public. So I'm using my online. But anyway, there's a topic that came to mind. It's basically how do you use your time? Where do you use it? I know a lot of us, because of the economy and everything else, we focus a lot of our time and our strengths to to go to work. We have to work and work ourselves to the bone in order to just get by, or not even getting by. This world is becoming very out of control. It's demanding more and more and more of our time and our money and our effort. And this is the devil trying to distract us from what really matters. And the devil doesn't want us to see the underlying plan. He wants us to spend time in sports and having our kids go to all over creation, from band practice to dance practice to sport practice to scouts to whatever. And and then they have to come home and do chores and that type of thing. So I would examine where you're putting your efforts and how you're using your time. Do you have a time when you all get together and, as a family, go through the Bible, or do you all have all of your iPhones and all going at once and you don't talk to each other and everything else? Um, I iPhones didn't come along until I was in my 30s. I grew up with a flip phone and with the rotary phones of long ago, um, which is not that long ago. Sorry, but but um, we used to not give a care about um, who was calling and who liked my post and who. Social media is nothing more than a distraction. It's supposed to get us um, hooked on it so much that we care what other people think, and that's not how we should be using our time or abilities. We should actually. I would strongly encourage you to get rid of social media. I would strongly encourage you to not use the phone to just be on social media. It's like, oh, well, that was a good video, and that was a cute picture, and that was a good meme, and that, and blah blah blah. I mean, we care more about that than actually living our lives. And I know kids nowadays. Actually, I mean, most kids don't even have homework. I mean, I've seen most schools, um, they don't have homework, or if they do, it's very easy homework. um, but up here, I mean, I have no choice but to focus my abilities on reading the Bible and listening to God and basically hearing from Him, which is a good thing. But it's also um, I struggle with like what to do in certain times. But not having a phone is great to have, because then I don't have to have any type of connection to it. And it's yeah. Um, and then you have TV and movies and all that good stuff, which I shut off 3 years ago, and I have not looked back since. Um, TV is a distraction. It's television. It's telling a vision of future events and propaganda that they basically want you to agree to their narrative, and pushing things that are okay, like to be selfish and buy this diamond or buy this car or this thing, and then you'll be happy. And it's like, well, after you buy it, then you're not happy, because now you have to have insurance, and now you don't have enough money for anything else. So it's not a good purchase. But our time needs to be devoted to God. I mean, I know for quite a while my time was devoted to TV and music and entertainment, and I was like, oh well, I'll read the Bible tonight, and like the whole day would go and the whole night would go, and it's like, oh well, I don't have time for it anymore, so I wouldn't do it. I mean, occasionally throughout my life, I mean, there were times when I was more strongly going after God than others, and then there were other times that it was like, I'll do it when I feel like it. And that's the devil distracting us. The devil also wants us to get distracted in things like politics and who did what and when. And he wants us to get so bent out of shape with what's going on. And it's all a charade, it's all games. Um, they people running the show are running both sides. They don't want you to know that. They want you to think, oh, well, these guys are sworn enemies and that they're going to go after each other. No, that's not true. um, but our time, I mean, you need to look at how you spend your time. You need to look at like how much time that you go from A to B, how much time you do errands, how much time, and just see how you can put God back into your lives. God should be your number one. If He's not your number one, there's something wrong. And if you think you've gotten anywhere in life without God, then you're full of crap and you're fooling yourself because God's always been there. He wants people to turn to Him, and He's not going to, like, I mean, He's going to do everything He can, but I mean, there's a point when God's like, okay, well, you haven't listened to me, so He doesn't give up until you're in your grave, and um, but but just I would agree that you have to spend time exercising and getting out. Like you can see my bike over there, or see the wheel. um, like I go running and stuff at night so I can be able to sleep. And surprisingly, there's a lot of time devoted towards sleeping. It's like eight. Well, most people it's like anywhere from 7 to 9 hours a night is devoted to sleeping. So we do sleep away a significant amount of time. And then we go to work and then we come home from work and we're tired and we take a nap and whatever. And we need to use those quiet moments. We need to, I mean, find times when we can put God back in. Like if you have a long way to go to work, what I would ask you to do is turn on Christian music, turn on pastors and other people that you enjoy listening to, and basically listen to them. And or if you're not into that, what you can do is what I do is, or what I have done the last couple of years is I have just talked to God. It's like I tell him about my hopes, my fears, and my everything else on my way to work and on my way from work. Because I had an hour, well, about an hour drive. It was 45 minutes or so. But there were times when I could just talk to God and tell him what's going on and share my day with him. And that's what he wants. He wants to be part of your lives. He wants to, um, and he can make your days, um, I mean, go by quicker. And, um, but yes, when our focus is on God, everything else is meaningless. I mean, we do dedicate our time to, if you have kids or if you have loved ones, and we have to make time for them. But just make sure that you're not cutting out God, and you need to look at your time, and you need to make a chart and or whatever, and you need to see how much time is wasted. Because a lot of people just waste a whole lot of time. Um, Another place that potentially you could talk to God or just read a little bit is the bathroom. I know it's not the greatest of places. I know that things can get on the Bible and whatever, but you can wipe off of a Bible. But when you're sitting there, I mean, you could read a verse or two or 12, and you can really talk to God and go, "Hey, I'm struggling here or there, and this is not going very well." Um, And also, I mean, you could do this at sporting events. If you're sitting there in the bleachers with your kids, you could have a devotion time where you just look at a devotion, and then it doesn't take that much time. I mean, I do understand that people like to devote a lot of time to what they're doing. But if all your time is devoted towards like working, and you're working solidly for 80, 90, 100 hours, and you're not devoting any time to anywhere else, even your kids and your family, you're going to lose them. If you're solely devoted towards work and that type of thing, I mean, there's many movies like Click, and there's others where I mean, people were just nonstop working, and they would make time for their families, and then they would look back at their lives, and no one that is at the end of their life wishes that they would have worked more. They wish they would have spent more time with their relatives. They wish they would have spent more time with their kids, because this world is going fast, and our focus needs to be more on people around us and glorifying God, and spending time in God's Word, because soon a lot of our time is going to be dedicated well, if you make it to heaven, it's going to be spent praising God and doing all kinds of things around and for God. And so, if you like this world more than God, then you're not going to end up in the right place. But we all have schedules, and I'm just asking you to look at it and try to write in some time for God, and then stick to it. And it may take a little while for you to stick to a schedule. Oh, but there's others of us that we don't go by schedules, and we just kind of wing it. So I mean, yeah. So just, I mean, you need to think of God more. You need to have Him be a major emphasis in your life, and you can make it a part of family time. You can make it, I mean, before or after dinner, and you can make it a time where you study the Bible and all that. And also, that's where the Sabbath fits in. The Sabbath is a day where you're supposed to rest. If you're working on the Sabbath, then you're not doing life right. God will always supply what you need if you follow what He commands you, and He commands you to follow the Sabbaths. He commands you to follow the feasts. He doesn't demand you follow the traditions of man. He actually says, watch out for the vain philosophies of the traditions of man. He says to not be in the traditions of man. Easter and Halloween and Christmas are all traditions of man. They are put together to cover up the vileness of these Yuletide festivals, these orgies, and these other things, in order to um, I don't know, make them more acceptable to us. And Halloween is the most cursed day of the year. There are sacrifices made to Baal and to the devil and Moloch every year. There are many people that are cursed through candy and through witchcraft, and souls are taken, and there's a whole lot of bad crap that goes around it. So definitely do not participate in that. But there are ways of dedicating more time to God. You can take off days, and instead of going on a vacation, I mean, you could spend time at a park or whatever with your family, um, and and as a way of picnicking, and you could bring the Bible along with you. And I know that's not the cool thing to do right now, but um, if your life is completely dedicated to yourself and your ambitions and I'm not trying to say that your kids and your wife and these things aren't important. What I'm trying to say is there needs to be some time dedicated to God. Um, and if you don't spend any time with God, there's something seriously wrong. That means that you have completely gone the other way of God. um, so yeah. but there's always ways of doing more. Um, and I would encourage everyone to go through the Bible and not just like go ramming or reading through it and just flying through it, but like really talking to God and praying before you read and asking for discernment, wisdom, and knowledge and understanding of what you're about to read. Because He will give you discernment and He will give you eye-opening things. Because there's some hidden meanings and hidden things that is in what we read, and if you ask for the Holy Spirit in your life, the Holy Spirit will illuminate things and show you the way to live. And um, we can also use our time to volunteer for like food banks, and we can volunteer for Meals on Wheels. We can volunteer to help those around us. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be an organized thing. It could be, hey, I'm going to volunteer some time and help the person next door to me's yard, because I feel like I can just knock on their yard and knock on their door and help with their yard. Or I mean, there's things all around us that we can do, and I think part of our time needs to be dedicated to helping those around us. Um, Part of that, I mean, it's maybe you're working through church, maybe you're working through organizations. I know in my past I've worked for like Samaritan's Purse and Salvation Army, going to disasters and spending 2 weeks and ripping out flooded houses, and just trying to lead others back to God, and telling that yes, you may have lost a lot, but you still have your lives and God's still there. And that I mean that I was changed when I went to those disaster areas, because when I came back I was like gung ho. It was amazing the turnaround that I had after I got home. I mean, I wanted to get out, and I was braver after I got back, and then I lost it all. Life has a tendency to beat us down, and the devil doesn't want us to open up. He doesn't want us to use our time and talents and abilities to get out there, because that means he loses souls. He's trying to doom us all. The devil is trying to doom us, and we need to rise up and um, do more for those around us, and not just look to our own families. Our families can be used, and we can volunteer as a family to help those and serve those around us. And we can. There's a movie called 5,000 Blankets. It's a great example of a family with kids doing stuff for the homeless. Like they gather blankets for the homeless, and but there are things that we can do. And yes, you can be safe about it. You can go during the day or into places or like missions and other things, and you can ask them what they need and how to help them. So, um, but yeah, so yeah, this is just a video. I'm just trying to get you to think differently about time. And it doesn't matter if you're young or old. I mean, I understand that we need to have fun every now and then. I understand that we need to go hiking or biking or maybe play a game. Even though I would suggest not going to play a game. I mean, you can do puzzles or whatever. Um, but yes, just make sure that you're not cutting out your own family members. Make sure that you're putting away this gadget that's in your hand called a cell phone, because these things are evil. If I could, I would get rid of my cell phone, because it's just there's too many connections to all kinds of things that we don't need, and there's a very strong draw to go on YouTube, to go on Facebook, to go on Snapchat or whatever you use, and to look on these things. And I will admit it. It's like when I'm in Grand Junction and I get drawn in by these videos. I'm like, okay, why am I getting drawn in? And the devil wants. I mean, there is a strong draw from the devil to do what we shouldn't be doing instead of what we should, and we need to recognize that and alter course. Well, thank you for joining me. I'm going to go I have to go shower and go to bed now. But thank you for joining me this evening. Well, morning, it may be morning when you're listening to this. But yeah, take care and God bless.